prepare to be transported. Imagine a world draped in shadows, where the vibrant tapestry of divine communication has faded to a muted silence. For over 4 centuries, the comforting voice of God, once a guiding beacon for His people, was conspicuously absent. Hearts ached with unanswered questions, and souls wandered in a labyrinth of uncertainty. This wasn't a fictional apocalypse, but the lived reality following Malachi, the last prophetic voice to echo before an extended celestial hush. But what if Malachi's parting words weren't a mere historical footnote? What if, nestled within his ancient pronouncements, lie potent truths capable of igniting a revolution in our modern faith? Could his message, delivered over 2 millennia ago, speak directly to the silences we experience in our own lives, offering solace and direction in a world that often feels deafeningly quiet? Embark with me on an exploration of Malachi's story, where we'll confront bold challenges, rediscover the essence of genuine worship, and unveil the prophecy that paved the way for the arrival of Jesus Christ, the ultimate bridge between the Old and New Testaments. Are you ready to unearth the hidden treasures within Malachi's message and witness their enduring relevance in our contemporary world? Join me as we navigate this sacred narrative, allowing this ancient voice to resonate within your own life. The silence after Malachi may feel distant, but his message's power is closer than you think. Prepare to be challenged and transformed as we delve into the life and enduring lessons of this extraordinary prophet. The untold story of Malachi, the last prophet before 400 years of silence. Envision existence in a realm where the heavens fall mute, where the refreshing word of God fails to penetrate the encroaching darkness for 4 protracted centuries. Picture yourself traversing bustling thoroughfares amidst the clamor of merchants and the laughter of children, yet acutely aware of an essential absence, a vital element that once steered your ancestors like a pillar of fire by night and a guiding cloud by day. This isn't some fantastical dystopia. This was the stark and unsettling reality for Israel following the era of Malachi, the final voice to reverberate across the Old Testament landscape before a profound and haunting quiet descended. But who was Malachi, truly? This enigmatic figure, whose name translates to "my messenger," bore the weighty mantle of being the last divine conduit before God closed the prophetic door for hundreds of years. Could you have borne the burden of delivering harsh truths to a weary nation, knowing that silence might be the only response to your words? Transport yourself back to approximately 430 BC, to a land scarred by exile and haunted by echoes of past glory. The Israelites had returned from their Babylonian captivity with hearts brimming with optimism, eager to rebuild not only their shattered walls, but also their covenant identity. They painstakingly reconstructed Jerusalem's temple, hoping its splendor would rival that of Solomon's era. Yet, a chilling wave of disillusionment soon engulfed them. The promised magnificence failed to materialize. Their once fervent devotion waned. Worship devolved into ritual, lacking genuine reverence, and sacrifices were marred by negligence. Priests, who were meant to serve as holy mediators, became careless, presenting blemished animals upon God's altar. Does this resonate with disquieting parallels in our own era, when even those in positions of leadership succumb to compromise and cherished traditions of faith transform into hollow gestures? Amid this troubled backdrop emerged Malachi. Imagine being chosen by God to confront both priests and the populace, stripping away the facade of their hypocrisy and beckoning them back to authentic worship. His message, though sharp as a blade, carried a pulse of hope beneath its stern warnings. Could you have delivered such a call, knowing it might be the last divine communication your nation would receive for generations? Malachi's voice thundered across Israel's spiritual wasteland, accusing priests of despising God's name. Malachi 1:6, challenging husbands who betrayed their wives, and rebuking an entire people for robbing God by withholding tithes. Yet even amid rebuke, his words contained shimmering threads of promise, hints of a messenger yet to come who would prepare the way, and a son of righteousness who would rise with healing in his wings. Malachi 3:1, 4:2. What must it have been like to live under the weight of such pronouncements? To wonder when, or if, that day might ever dawn. As we contemplate Malachi's story, its parallels to our contemporary struggles are striking. Disillusionment is rampant, leaders falter, and many grow weary, reducing faith to mere tradition rather than a vibrant relationship. Could it be that Malachi's cries across the millennia are intended not only for ancient Israel, but also for us? How might his uncompromising call for sincerity and holiness pierce the protective shells we construct around our modern lives? His brief yet potent book serves as a sacred bridge spanning the chasm of 400 silent years to the first cries of a newborn in Bethlehem. But we haven't arrived at that chapter yet. For now, stand alongside Malachi in Jerusalem's streets. Let his urgent voice rise above the drone of marketplaces and temple chants. Allow the palpable tension to envelop you, this sense that heaven is about to close its mouth, that the next divine word may only arrive after centuries of waiting in a world that so often veers from true worship. Where is your heart anchored? Could this ancient messenger be reaching across time, urging you not to allow your faith to stagnate, not to let the sacred become routine? Perhaps, like the Israelites of old, we stand on the precipice of something far grander than we can imagine. If only we cultivate the ears to hear the final echo before the silence. Malachi's story diverges significantly from many others in Scripture. There were no dramatic, attention-grabbing events in his narrative, no fiery chariots descending from heaven, no booming voices echoing from mountaintops. Instead, his call emerged with a more haunting and urgent tone, born out of God's profound concern for his people's descent into spiritual darkness. Picture this scene. A nation recently liberated from exile, gradually succumbing to the very sins that precipitated their downfall. Amidst this slow decay, God's gaze rested upon Malachi. Envision this seemingly ordinary figure, his name simply meaning, "my messenger," traversing the crowded streets of Jerusalem, feeling an invisible burden settle upon his shoulders. He didn't seek this responsibility. There was no momentous occasion where he charged into the temple, pleading with God for a platform. Rather, God extended his hand and placed it upon Malachi, selecting him precisely because he needed a voice to penetrate the fog of hollow worship and corrupt leadership. Doesn't it stir something within you to recognize how frequently God calls unlikely individuals in quiet moments, just as he did with Gideon threshing wheat in secret, or with Amos tending his sycamore figs? Amos 7:14-15. The scriptures offer no insights into Malachi's personal life. We remain unaware of his social standing, his marital status, or whether he had children awaiting his return home from his demanding assignment. This intentional omission directs our attention away from the man and toward the divine message he carried. It's as if God is whispering across the ages. The servant's stature is irrelevant. What truly matters is the power of the one who sends him. Wah. Could this same truth apply to you in your seemingly ordinary life? Malachi's mission demanded more than simply delivering comforting words. His was a ministry of confrontation, holding a stark mirror to Israel's reflection so they could see the cracks spreading across their souls. Imagine him standing before priests who treated sacred offerings as mere transactions, husbands who abandoned their covenant vows, entire communities who cheated God by withholding what was intended for his house. What must it have felt like to be the solitary voice resonating through stone courtyards, accusing leaders and commoners alike of betraying the very God who had rescued them from exile? Can you feel the weight pressing on Malachi's chest, knowing that speaking these harsh truths might create enemies rather than allies? And yet, he spoke, driven by the unwavering conviction that God's words, once ignited, could not be contained. His prophecy cut through layers of hypocrisy with precision and force. He warned them, "A son honors his father, and a servant his master. If then I am a father, where is my honor?" Malachi 1:6. How painfully those words must have resonated with priests who offered God blemished sacrifices, offerings they wouldn't dare present to their human governor. Malachi 1:8. Yet interwoven within Malachi's stern pronouncements was a tender promise, a hidden treasure waiting to be discovered. He spoke of a messenger who would come to prepare the way, of a purifying fire that would cleanse like a refiner's furnace, of a sun of righteousness rising with healing in its wings for all who revered God's name. Malachi 3:1. 4:2. Can you sense the inherent tension? A God who confronts, yet yearns to restore. A judge whose heart still beats with mercy. Malachi's entire calling formed a divine bridge, linking Israel's fractured present with a breathtaking future that even he couldn't fully comprehend. He was the final echo before 400 years of prophetic silence, a silence that wouldn't break until a voice cried out in the wilderness, "Prepare the way of the Lord." How might it have felt to be Malachi, standing at the edge of the spiritual cliff, knowing his words were the last lanterns lit before centuries of darkness? And as we absorb his story, doesn't it feel strangely relevant? We live in a time where true, vibrant faith often dissolves into routine. Churches can bustle with activity, yet lack the fire that elevates worship beyond habit. How often have we, like those in Malachi's day, offered God our leftovers instead of our best? Could God be raising up modern-day Malachis, even now, calling ordinary people to challenge comfort, to point beyond ritual toward real, soul-deep devotion? Though his words are ancient, Malachi's voice still resonates with urgent relevance. He reminds us that God does not remain silent forever, nor does he tolerate hollow religion indefinitely, and within every harsh truth lies an invitation to return, to be refined, to anticipate a coming glory far beyond what we deserve. So linger with Malachi for a moment longer. Let his courage and his burning message stir something restless within you. If God could use an unremarkable man to awaken an entire nation, what might he desire to do through you? Perhaps, like Malachi, your life is meant to be a bridge between what God has already done and what he is preparing to unveil. Now let's delve into the very heart of Malachi's stirring message. It doesn't begin with thunder or judgment, but with something profoundly tender. I have loved you, declares the Lord to his people. Can you imagine hearing these words echo through Jerusalem's narrow streets, only to be met with a wounded, skeptical response? How have you loved us? Malachi 1:2. It's a raw and almost heartbreaking moment. A chosen nation, so blinded by disappointment and routine that they can no longer discern the fingerprints of divine love on their lives. And doesn't this unsettling question sometimes surface in our own hearts, especially during periods of unanswered prayers or silent suffering? Malachi seizes this fragile thread and weaves it into a tapestry that reveals both God's unwavering commitment and Israel's faltering devotion. He reminds them how God chose Jacob over Esau, not based on merit, but solely out of sovereign love. Could it be that we, too, often overlook the countless ways God has showered His love upon us, sustaining us even when we were oblivious? From here, Malachi's piercing gaze shifts toward the spiritual leaders, the priests who were meant to embody holiness, but had become complacent, treating sacred offerings as mere chores. Hear the divine grief in God's accusation. You offer defiled food on my altar. Malachi 1:7. The real corruption wasn't the blemished animals they presented. It was the state of their blemished hearts. They reserved the best for themselves, offering God what cost them nothing. Can you feel how this transcends time to challenge us? When we worship, when we offer prayers or give, are we genuinely presenting our best, or merely the remnants of our distracted lives? The weight of Malachi's message intensifies as he addresses a deeply personal, yet profoundly spiritual issue: marriage. I hate divorce, God declares through his prophet, Malachi 2:16. His voice filled with sorrow and righteous anger. It's a sobering reminder that covenant faithfulness matters to God not just in temples and sacrifices, but in the quiet vows exchanged between two individuals. In a world where promises are often as fragile as glass, where loyalty sometimes yields under pressure, how might these ancient words challenge the very way we love and commit today? Malachi's rebukes extend beyond family walls. His gaze sweeps across society, exposing the injustices festering among God's people. He denounces those who exploit workers, oppress widows, mistreat orphans, and disregard the foreigners residing among them. Isn't it remarkable how true faith, from its inception, has always been intertwined with justice and compassion? When God's people turn a blind eye to the vulnerable, their worship becomes meaningless noise. Then suddenly, amidst these stern admonitions, a new note emerges, trembling with expectancy. Malachi's voice sharpens as he delivers perhaps his most renowned prophecy. See, I will send my messenger who will prepare the way before me. Malachi 3:1. Can you sense the foundation shifting beneath this promise? It's a whisper of hope that stretches beyond centuries of silence, pointing directly to John the Baptist, crying out in the wilderness. What must it have been like for weary Israelites to cling to this promise, awaiting the day when God himself would draw near? The prophet then elevates his gaze, unveiling a vision of the day of the Lord, a day when arrogance will be reduced to ashes. Yet, for those who revere God's name, something astonishing awaits. The Sun of Righteousness will rise with healing in its wings. Malachi 4:2. Imagine standing beneath that glorious dawn, feeling warmth dispel every shadow in your life, Wouldn't you yearn for such a sunrise, one that heals every wound and restores every broken place? This is where Malachi's ancient words become a living mirror. They reach across the ages to examine the secrets of our hearts. How deep does our love for God truly run? Are we offering Him the first and finest of our time, energy, and devotion, or merely what remains after we've satisfied ourselves? Are our relationships characterized by steadfast loyalty that mirrors God's covenant love? Do we champion justice for the powerless, or do we quietly ignore the suffering we see around us? Through Malachi, God refuses to allow complacency to become permanent. Even as He speaks of judgment, there's an underlying current of mercy, an invitation to return, to prepare for a future far brighter than our present failings. Could it be that these timeless prophecies are intended not only for Israel long ago, but also for you right now, calling you to awaken, to hope, and to look for the sun of righteousness poised to rise over your own life? So linger for a moment longer, letting Malachi's words resonate around you. Feel the urgency, the sting, and the incredible promise wrapped within them. This isn't merely an old story preserved on fragile parchment. It's a divine plea, still resonating, asking if you will allow your heart to be stirred, your worship to be purified, and your life to become a living testimony to the God who relentlessly loves and restores. Malachi's message transcends time, challenging us to embrace a faith far deeper than superficial rituals. A living faith that transforms hearts and extends outward to change families, communities, and even entire nations. Can you envision what that looks like in contrast to a people who merely maintain appearances, whose outward practices mask an inner emptiness? That is precisely the tragedy Malachi steps into. Imagine Israel's story unfolding before you like a vibrant mural. This was a nation handpicked by the Almighty, delivered from brutal slavery in Egypt through incredible miracles, nourished with manna from heaven, and guided by divine laws inscribed by God. Prophets arose to call them back whenever they strayed, and kings like David and Solomon once ruled with a glory that dazzled the world. Now, fast forward through the centuries, what do you see? A people who have gradually become numb to the very God who shaped their destiny. By Malachi's time, the Israelites had returned from Babylonian captivity. With trembling hands and hopeful hearts, they had laid the foundation of a new temple in Jerusalem, convinced that this restoration would usher in unimaginable blessings. However, as the years passed, reality weighed heavily on them. The grand visions faded, their spirits sagged under the weight of unmet expectations, and the flames of devotion cooled into gray embers. Isn't it haunting how hope can so easily erode when dreams are delayed? This decline wasn't a sudden plunge off a cliff. It was a gradual slide, a subtle surrender to mediocrity, a decision made by small compromises. And doesn't this feel eerily familiar? How often have we awakened to find our spiritual passion dimmed, not through a dramatic rebellion, but through countless minor concessions? Malachi's keen eyes diagnosed the symptoms of Israel's spiritual sickness with divine precision. Consider the priests, the supposed guardians of holiness. Instead of reverently offering their best on God's altar, they brought blemished, sickly, and unwanted animals. It was as if they thought, "This is good enough for God." Doesn't that same casual disregard sometimes seep into our hearts? How often do we give God the tired scraps of our time and affection after devoting our best energies to everything else? delve deeper into Malachi's world and witness how the sacred covenant of marriage had withered. Husbands divorced their wives for younger women, treating lifelong vows like seasonal garments to be discarded when worn thin. God himself thundered through Malachi, "I hate divorce." Malachi 2:16. Not because he hates people who have suffered broken marriages, but because he cherishes covenant loyalty as a divine reflection of his unbreakable love for us. So, as we draw our exploration of Malachi to a close, I hope you feel the power of this ancient message resonating within you. It's a story of unwavering love, a call to genuine worship, and a promise of a future filled with healing and hope. Malachi reminds us that God desires our whole hearts, not just the leftovers, and that true faith transforms not only our lives, but also the world around us. What resonated most with you in Malachi's message? Do you have any questions about the prophet or his prophecies? I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts. In the comments below, let's start a conversation. And if you enjoyed diving into Malachi's story with me, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future explorations of Scripture and faith. I'm excited to continue this journey of discovery with you.